Yo, what's going on with it? The Mono, welcome back. If we don't wake up, we are at the brink of a race war. And of course, I don't want to say that because we don't believe in the black or white thing, but that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed in terms of the social construct that's taking place. We are, in fact, on the brink of
They're
one
trying to
idea.
push for a civil war. That's what
Yep,
they're doing. They're pushing
yep,
for a civil war for sure.
yep. Most definitely, most
They
definitely.
they they've always wanted us to destroy ourselves from within. It's the only way you can destroy the United States
Yep.
and the state that we're in. Yeah.
If you think about the Roman Empire, they were too strong to be destroyed from the outside. Rome destroyed themselves by their own loins, by their own mindset, by
Wow. I
the
had
way
no idea. I need to go study that. I didn't know that that's how Rome fell.
United States keeps trying to go in that direction. It will most certainly be the same. But we thank God for people for putting leaders back in place who want to restore some type of common sense. Before we get into this video, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you know I'm going live. I'm going to make a video. But without further ado, bro, let's get into this, man.
The US have laid bare the shocking levels of racial division in American society, amplified by extreme and viral takes on social media. 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony is a black teenager charged with stabbing a white boy to death at a school track meeting in April. More than $600,000 in donations have poured in, not for the victim's grieving family, but for his alleged killer. Last week, Shiloh Hendricks went viral after a video showed the young mother racially abusing a 5-year-old, allegedly for stealing from her young child.
Call him a child? Yes, you call him a Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again? A child?
What if he acts like one? He's gonna
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old.
Well, as you can see, Hendricks doesn't deny using the slur. In fact, she repeats it many times. That's all the stuff that's bleeped out. When a bystander in the park follows her with his smartphone. Hendricks set up a fundraiser on the same website as Carmelo Anthony's supporters, on which he wrote, "I called the kid out for what he was." Incredibly, that campaign has now raised more money than the first one, surpassing $655,000 at the time of taping the show. Well, the boss of the website, Give, Send, Go, is accused of facilitating brazen racism on a platform whose motto is "Money is temporary, Jesus is eternal." He will join me later. Liberals say this is exactly what they've been warning about, that the post-BLM backlash and the crushing of DEI has provided a fig leaf for outright bigotry. Conservatives were similarly outraged by the support for Carmelo Anthony, an alleged murderer who's been glorified by some as a victim of a racist system. We're here to debate all this is the host of the Fresh and Fit podcast, Myron Gaines, the host of Night School on YouTube, Mark Lamont Hill, Lily Gaddis, a social media commentator whose video defense of the N-word mother has so far been viewed millions of times on X, and the New York Post columnist and author Ricky Schlott. Well, welcome to all of you. Ricky, look, my take on this is a stain on all their houses, right? I just don't know what is happening to society when you have such vast sums of money being raised for what seems to me to be deliberate, racially charged motivational reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're fighting ugly with ugly right now. And I think this level of racial tribalism and hostility is just simply not sustainable in such a diverse democracy like America. I think it's, one is really a reaction to the other. I think both campaigns are really hideous. And I think we're showing our ugliest colors. I mean, in the scheme of things, these are small sums relative to the population of America. But you do see, I think, a really tremendous explosion of ugliness and racial hostility that I think that we should all be ashamed and embarrassed of.
Yeah, I mean, you described it, I think, in one of your posts as genuinely, is this a psyop? This would be the best $1 million invested by a foreign adversary to start a race war in America. And I knew exactly what you're getting at, because many of the comments, I think the comments have now been suspended actually on both of these funding pages, because people were quite obviously deliberately misusing them to post race baiting commentary.
Absolutely. I mean, if you go through some of the comments on either of them, you have White Lives Matter on one side and like suggestions that the teenage boy who was stabbed was somehow like a manifestation of white supremacy. And it seems to be just a fight at a track meet that has nothing to do with racial hostility in the first place. And the poor father of this young man who died too said, please don't make this into a racial issue. And yet on his own Give, Send, Go campaign, there are comments after comment saying this is White Lives Matter, we're avenging against Carmelo Anthony's family. I mean, on all ends, this is ugly. I think that it's really co-opting the charity and giving community. I mean, I feel bad for the fundraising platforms because I don't think this was the intention originally. But unfortunately, I think that people are really starting to take over good intents and the charity industrial complex to make it into a victim industrial complex, and it's really sad to see.
Well, we're going to have one of the founders of the Give, Send, Go site a little later in the program. But Martin Monthill, you were shaking your head there. I mean, what's your take on this?
There are a couple of things that were said that I think are really interesting and important. One, there is an outside audience of people who are watching all of this and opportunistically using it for their own agendas and projects. You know, I have an investment in believing X, so I'm going to jump in the comments of this GoFundMe, etc. I have an investment in Y, I'm going to do the same thing. But what I don't want to do is compare these two things as if they're opposite sides of the same coin. For me, the intention of the campaign matters. In the case of this woman who is using the N-word, the woman isn't disputing using the N-word. The woman isn't disputing being racist. And the comments that are being
every month, this Airbnb pays me in semi-passive income. Now, here's the thing. I don't own it and I don't pay any rent. It doesn't even matter where you live, even if you're in a boring little town.
Left on the site before they were suspended, and the attitudes behind it weren't saying she's being railroaded, she's being misrepresented. They were simply saying, we support racism. And I think that's disgusting, no matter who's doing it. On the other hand, the people who are fundraising for Carmelo Anthony, the argument here isn't, yeah, we did something and we don't care like the other woman. The argument is we're being misrepresented here. We're being railroaded. But this was a self-defense claim. This is not an act of violence. This isn't first degree murder. I'm saying what they're saying. This isn't my argument. They're saying this is a first degree murder claim that is wrong. This is actually self-defense. And we need the money to make sure that we get a fair trial. I think, and so whether you agree with his argument or not, I think raising money for a fair trial is different than raising money for a racist.
I mean, I think the common theme between the two, and this is not to pass any view about it at this stage, although I have strong views about it. I guess the common theme is that both of them say that as a result of all the publicity, they've been doxxed and had all their personal details put everywhere on social media, which is, of course, the modern scourge which gets involved. And as a result, they've had death threats and they have security issues and they have to move home and so on. You know, I understand that part of the argument. You know, when you're at the center of a firestorm in America and you're not used to public attention, then the levels of intimidation, threats, and so on that can come your way can be extremely intimidating, if not outright dangerous. So it's different really to taking a view about either of the cases to simply say that the commonality is that they both, I think, have said in defending the amounts that have been raised is, well, we have to defend ourselves. Either, as you're putting it, through the courts, but also in his case, the alleged killer, that he has also, I think, had direct threats against him. And in the case of the mother using the N-word in that despicable manner, she has said she's had a lot of threats too.
Well, my quick response to that would just be, let's assume everybody's telling the truth. Let's assume she's telling the truth, and let's assume he's telling the truth. If he's telling the truth and he was doing self-defense and he's getting harassed and doxxed, and of course we already know lies have been told about his GoFundMe campaign saying they were spending it on mansions and cars, all the kind of racist tropes. If that's true, he's being mistreated, and I think that's a sort of very easy case to make. When it comes to her, however, let's assume she's also telling the truth, that she used the word, she thinks the kid was acting like one, she feels like she has the right to use that word against that small baby because of whatever age-appropriate thing the kid did. If she's telling the truth and she's getting doxxed and harassed, I don't know if I want to reward her behavior with $500,000. I don't think she should be doxxed. I don't think she should be harassed. I think she has been mistreated to the extent that no one should be. You have a right to be racist. You have a right to free speech in this country. But I'm not donating money for it, and I feel a lot worse about her GoFundMe than the one for the person who's been railroaded.
Yeah, well, Lily Gaddis, you posted a defense of Shiloh on X. It's been viewed 2.5 million times, in which it was entitled, "White People Are Finally Fighting Back. Stand with Shiloh Hendricks," in which it was posted a defense of Shiloh on X. It's been viewed 2.5 million times, in which it was entitled, "White People Are Finally Fighting Back. Stand with Shiloh Hendricks." What did you mean by that? Tax day has passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where the trouble begins. Taxes. Employed, or if you're getting you back on track, even after the deadline, stop penalties, 1,000 USA, the
racism as much as black. Here's the thing, white people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the N-word, first at a young child, and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. And so I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything you've just said. She's just a racist. End, isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
well,
white
it's about
people
her
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. She is. I mean, would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would.
Mm-hmm. I do quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist, are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so. I don't really care. I mean, why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
Because I'm white and my.
What, there are no black people in American history? Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading your white country? Is that
animalizing a small black child? It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, you may as well have done because you're just an unashamed
that's the implication
proud
of
racist. Let me bring in Mara Gaines. You've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
What'd you say?
I didn't hear that transition. She was saying, can you just rewind just a little bit so it can connect it before that commercial?
Hold on.
Yeah, because I didn't understand what he said. He might as well just said that. Said what? Right. Okay.
Let me bring in Myron Gaines because you've been smirking a lot. You're just an unashamed.
It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, but you may as well have done because you're just an unashamed.
Enslaved, and they built this country. And the idea that you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, but you may as well have done because you're just an unashamed.
That's the implication of
racist. Let me bring in Myron Gaines because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody. I don't need to Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, "Yeah, I'm racist. I use the N-word against black people. I don't care." That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly.
She didn't say she was racist.
Right. No. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean that's just because she says a word and uses a word. They want to put that out there. They want to put that out there that she's a racist. But I mean, you know how that go. You got some people who want to claim ownership of a specific word, and for the life of me, I don't know why if it has derogatory meaning to it, and if you claim, okay, put it like this. So a certain group of people always wants to disassociate themselves with anything with anything that that had negative connotation to it, right? And we know that a certain specific word definitely has negative connotation to it. It brings, I won't say memories, but we know where it comes from. So why would you want to continue to carry, like, why would you want to continue to carry on a legacy, so to say, that had nothing but negative implications to it if you if you want to disassociate yourself from it? I don't feel how you gain power from that, as they say. Well, we're taking it and and giving it power. No, no, you're not. Um, you're just um I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I've often thought about that for the longest. Um, what type of empowerment are we actually doing here? Because at the end of the day, when they call you it, when they call you that, another group of people calls you that, you get up in arms and you get offended. To me, that's not true power. If somebody can say something to you and you react a specific way, they have control over you. For me, true power is someone can call me that and I can be like, all glory be to God. I can keep it moving
Self-control, the
at
fruit of
the
the
end of
spirit.
the day. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, I know that I'm a child of God. And regardless, it's not based on what you call me. It's not based on what you
It's
call me,
it's
based
basically like, you know, okay, there's a TV right in front of me, bro, and you have like a remote control, right? It's like they have the remote control to us. They can control us. They can change the channel, that kind of thing. When
it's
when
a
we
false sense of
God is
power.
saying, "I've given you your own remote to control yourself."
It's a false it's this false sense of power that people feel as if like, yo, we're taking it back. But the moment someone calls you that, the moment someone calls you that, again, you flip up. See, I don't think power is necessarily about ownership, but it's about response and reaction. It's about response and reaction. How I'll react in this situation. Because the truth is they want to not and I'm not saying they specifically as just them in general, but I'm just saying if anyone uses that word in a negative, in a derogatory sense or a negative, it's because they want to react. That's just like if I was to say something about you right now. Like if I was to say something offensive to you, that's because I would want a negative reaction from you, or I will want to upset you. In the same, in the same way, if someone is using that against you in a in a negative sense, a negative connotation, whatever the word is, it's because they want a reaction. So the uh the solution would be to not react to it, to not react, to be like, yo, again, I know what my father says about me, but I think the biggest issue is that people don't know their identification. They don't know they
Yeah,
what we're supposed to identify in, bro. And we know what the book of Galatians says. I am a new creature. I'm a new creature. I identify Galatians 2:21. I identify with Christ. It's I who died and Christ who now lives in me. But
right,
if we don't know this stuff, then we just gonna react to anything, bro.
right, right. There are no physical principles that comes with giving your life to Christ. Only spiritual.
Hmm. Yeah, most definitely, bro. God dog. Hold on. I done took this all the way back. Hold on. Is it Myron talking, I believe?
Meet the new standard in sleep. This is Pod 4 Ultra. It's not a bed, it's a revolution in the sleep game.
It's okay, bro. We're gonna
Crafted
be
for
able to
those who
afford
demand
YouTube
nothing
Premium
but peak
soon.
performance from every
Skip all these
aspect of life,
commercials.
including
right now in America is literally a backlash to this black from getting interviews on a breakfast or Nick.
People sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them. You want to use the N word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community
Is
unbelievable
that my
offense.
fault? Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior,
Too far into it.
Certain words could offend people is precisely why we're in this.
Chastising Black Americans about their behavior, about calling white people crackers, as you say, about their moral claims, about it comes
Organized. And what I mean by this is everyone is racist. That's number one.
Surely.
Everybody
And
is
if
racist to
everyone
some
is
degree. The reality
racist,
is, it
then
depends on
nobody
a lot of people
is.
want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not is racist.
Is with respect, Myron, she's a racist.
Hold on, bro.
Smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and, you know, wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No,
But
she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not
finish my
wagging a
point.
finger at anybody.
She
I don't need to.
self-identified as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to
Because-
wag a finger when somebody says, "Yeah, I'm racist. I use the N word against black people. I don't care." That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly.
Period.
Even
Here's the
you
thing.
can't defend that.
Piece of
Surely.
work, bro.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is, it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think the Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organizing. And what I mean by this is, for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result, when in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people. And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality, or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right, but just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she.
He just said a mouthful right there. But Pierce Morgan doing. I feel like he's doing a lot of gaslighting. If I had to be honest, bro, because he keeps on directing the attention back to the third person on the panel. I mean,
Fourth,
so far,
yeah. A third, yeah.
But it'll be fourth if you include him. But
yeah, I ain't including him. You're right. Third person was family.
but yeah, you know, they can't get over the fact they can't. Well, put it like this. I think it's kind of a reflection, so to say, of what old boy just said. Myron. I think it's a reflection of what he just said. So we're talking about a lot of a certain group of people have gotten away with a lot that's been taking place here in America, while another group has been suppressed. If we can talk like that, and it's kind of the situation that we're dealing with, that we're literally talking about right now. We're giving more attention to, well, so far from what I heard, more attention has been given to this racial slur as opposed to the Carmelo Anthony situation. Although one is more recent than the other, but at the end of the day, one is still one is, even though the Carmelo Anthony situation is older, it's still more important because someone lost their life as opposed to someone using a word. But
Right.
but the attention, and this goes back to what Myron said, people have been you have been able to get away with things while others haven't. We're putting more of our attention on a racial slur. Yeah, of course, okay, the boy was 5 years old, he was black, he was autistic, and the woman called him the N-word. Okay, sad situation, blah blah, whoop to whoop, but the boy gets to live another day.
And it's really not a sad situation because this is an autistic boy. He probably doesn't even recognize what that lady said was supposed to be hurtful to him.
Bro, it's not going to affect him one way or the
Right, one bed. Like he probably don't even what.
Now, if she physically harmed him in any type of way, then we got another we got another conversation. But on the flip side of it, again, you had the Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation where there are two people who are literally aware or conscious of what's going on, what's taking place. Nonetheless, and two 17-year-old kids,
Pre-adults. Yep. These
adult,
pre-adults who know right from wrong.
one brings a knife to attract, one brings a knife to attract meat and stabs a guy in the heart. I mean, you know, I would say that we're not talking about the real issue here. We're focusing more on Shiloh Hendricks' situation, which is really neither here nor there for me. You know what I'm saying? Um, Again, like you said, it was a word used in that time. That child was not affected by it physically. I mean, was not, we could say physically, but negatively or positively. He don't know what it means
Or mentally. He wasn't affected.
mentally.
He's not going to have any kind of what do you call it? The PTSD or post, like he's going on, like you said, going on with his life. Probably has zero recognition. Probably does recognize though that he did something wrong to a certain extent based on her reaction, but he
Right.
probably doesn't realize exactly what's being said to him.
I mean, he's only 5 for one,
Not
you
only
know.
is he 5, but then he's autistic as well. So
Right, right. And so I mean, I would most certainly say as far as the woman, Shiloh Hendricks, I mean, that was dumb for her to do, of course, like, you know what I'm saying? But
none of
we
this is condoned. Any action, according like you said, according to Galatians 5, works of the flesh.
right.
We don't condone that. It don't matter what skin tone you are. If you're operating in the flesh, yeah, you're wrong. So
Let's get it
Political
going.
correctness, liberalism, and making sure that we are politically correct and don't use certain words could offend people is precisely why we're in the situation that we're in. For decades, we've had to literally tiptoe around saying certain things around certain people, while the other group of people has been able to have impunity and be able to be as racist as they want to be, as violent as they want to be, without any type of consequence. And if you call it out, you're labeled a racist. The reality is this. Black people don't want to live around black people. I don't want to live around a bunch of black people. I move to neighborhoods where it's majority white because I know I'm safe. Now, this uncomfortable reality that no one wants to say, so I'll say it for them. Black people commit a lot of crimes. The majority of the violent crime committed in the United States is committed by a small percentage of people, and they tend to be black men. Look, the reality is the reality. People don't want to say it, but the political correctness and being nice and not wanting to tell the truth is precisely this problem. And the reason why you're seeing all the support for Metcalf and Shiloh, etc., is because white people have not been able to step up and say what they want to say for a very long time because of what I said before: systemic, organized, where they don't take accountability for their
All right, let me
decisions.
bring in Ricky to respond. Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that I agree that virtue signaling went too far, that political correctness went too far, but we're going from virtue signaling being the norm and being praised to now vice signaling being the norm and being praised. It's not just a matter of does this woman have the right to use that word? I believe that she has the right. I disagree with it. But is she now being rewarded with $500,000? Why are we rewarding people for performing vice instead of virtue? This is not healthy. This is destructive to our society. This is destructive to our social fabric, to our culture, to our ability to live with other fellow Americans. It's gross to reward someone for bad behavior. It's one thing to tolerate it, to say that she has the right to do it, but she called an autistic 5-year-old the N-word. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like we're kind of like missing the point in the actual context. You can say that it's part of this bigger meta story of black and white America, but it actually is just like a short little clip, and you don't even know the context of it, and it's actually gross. And if we can't just say that it's gross and bad, then I don't really know where we are.
Well, I think it's interesting to me that Lily Gaddis, you retweeted Nick Fuentes, the white supremacist, by saying he said black people just raised $500,000 for a cold-blooded killer who stabbed a white teenager to death. So I don't want to hear one word about the Shiloh Hendricks fundraiser. Either everyone gets to be tribal or nobody does. Why would you retweet that?
Because I agree with it. Because we have to fight fire with fire. I mean, at some point, why are
nobody does?
Why are Jewish people allowed to be tribal? Why are black people allowed to be tribal? But as soon as white people stand up for themselves, we're labeled a racist. And by the way, you call people racist when you want them to stop talking about
No, I called you a racist because you admitted you were racist. Hang on. I called, just to be clear, I called you a racist because you openly, proudly admitted you're a racist. So it wasn't a question of exposing you or pointing my finger or trying to get this out of you. You proudly sat there, bold as brass, and said, yeah, I use the N-word all the time against black people. I'm a racist and I'm proud of it. That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by black people. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave, and he gets stabbed in the heart. I prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say, I don't like what happens to be coming out of this community or that community. How is that a bad thing? How is that not just a preference?
Because you've literally made black people sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them. You want to use the N word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community unbelievable
Is that
offense.
my fault? Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior, if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
That's mind-boggling to me for multiple reasons. I mean, we're talking about bad behavior. You know, we've never lynched you, we've never enslaved you, we've never done any of the deep-seated structural forms of injustice to white people that white people have done to black people, and yet to claim some kind of moral superiority in the midst of, and again, in the context of a conversation where a white woman is calling a 5-year-old autistic child the N-word, and we're talking about black people's bad behavior. This is absurd. And the idea of fighting fire with fire, again, is a dishonest argument. Just to take us back to the point here, the people who are supporting Carmelo Anthony's campaign believe that he was wrongfully charged and they're trying to get him legal defense. The people who are defending this woman are saying, yes, we know you called the 5-year-old autistic black child the N-word, and we want more of it. We approve of it. We support it. These are not the same thing. And it's bonkers to me that we couldn't all stand and say, hey, it is wrong to call a 5-year-old autistic black child.
That's why people get called soft, bro. That's why people get called soft, because you're not looking at the real issues. And I've always felt like that's been the gist of the conservative and liberal argument, is that, yeah, okay, the liberal might talk about things that might be a personal issue or a personal problem, so to say, you know, but the conservative talk more about issues that seem to be, I'm speaking to me anyway, more important. If somebody called me the N-word, as opposed to my child losing their life or me losing my life or whatever the case, a person losing their life, I promise you, bro, I'm not messed up about the N-word. I'm just not. But the sad situation of it is that we're looking at, you know, people's feelings, bro, like people's feelings, and trying to make that law, so to say, as opposed to what actually matters. And we're looking over that and trying to justify things that are actually wrong. So I'm gonna use this to kind of shed light on this whole situation of what I'm saying. Rodney Hinton and Ryan Hinton. It was a sad situation all around. The young kid that just lost his life from stealing the vehicle. Well, the young kid that just lost his life from the officer shooting him. That's enough said within itself, right? But the father comes the next day and he kills a random police officer. He goes and kills a random police officer. And now, because of his feelings, people are trying to make that out to be a law, to say that, well, he was justified in going and killing that random police officer. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by we're trying to make feelings law, and it's like, yo, forget
legal, because you can't make it law. Only God can make law. Only God has the power to make things law. We don't have power to make anything law. We can make legalities to try to go around God's law. But at the end of the day, you're completely right, bro. Like 100%, you're on it. That instead of this, you know, this superpower in accountability, we've literally disarmed ourselves with it to bring in what do you call it? Entitlement.
Yeah.
You know, people have exchanged accountability with entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and it's mind boggling to me. It's mind boggling to me that we're here. It's mind boggling to me that we're here. That that sensible adults would justify the killing of a random police officer just because of your anger. Just because of your anger. I get like, and I get it. I get it. I understand. Like you're upset. You're mad that your son lost his life due to a police officer. Um, but that don't justify. I'm sorry, but that doesn't justify to go and kill a random police officer. Now I can see you trying to go and attack the one who did it. Still doesn't make it right,
But
right? But
not someone else who had nothing to do with it, who may have a wife and family, and you know, you just ruin. Like you said, this it just it's a road to destruction. What Satan likes. He's like, oh yeah, go ahead and destroy yourselves, human beings. That's exactly what I want.
yeah,
Oh, you see yourself as a black human being? He's laughing. You see yourself as a white human being? He's laughing
yeah,
because
yeah.
he knows exactly what the pits that we're falling into that he pretty much set up.
Satan is the real op. Satan is the real.
100%.
And
And I'll say one more thing. Lamont was so wrong in his assessment with those two incidents where he
yeah,
said, "Oh, this is they're setting up a go send me
absolutely.
because they believe that you know Carmelo Anthony was acting in self defense." That is a bunch of malarkey.
I'm happy you
Like
brought that up, bro.
if anyone, as well as Lamont, because obviously Mark Lamont thinks Mr. Lamont, uh, by mere mentioning of it, he is co-signing to that same sentiment that, oh, Carmelo was just defending himself. Don't put your hand,
Facts,
FAFO. That's all I've been hearing on this side in defense of
facts,
Carmelo Anthony, and it is
facts.
the most absurd thing that I've heard since Joe Biden said, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black."